Hi, welcome back to a special session of Vantage Point. And this time around, we're going to look at innovation. World Innovation Forum Kuala Lumpur is just around the corner, not very far off. And I'm here at the right place to discuss this. This is the home ground of Yayasan Inovasi Malaysia, or YIM. And with me tonight, I have a very special guest, Professor Noboru Konno, President of Knowledge Innovation Research Organization of Japan. Now, when we say Japan, at least for my badge, for example, we were under the leadership of Tun Mahathir before, when he was having this Look East policy. We were still in school. It was like, because Japan was a developed nation, a developed Asian nation, second only behind America in terms of economic might. And but suddenly in the 90s, then we're hearing about stagnant growth. We were listening to how Japan is now having problems in terms of economic growth. So maybe what worked in terms of innovation for Japan in the 60s, 70s, and 80s doesn't really work for it in the 90s and even now. But how do they see it? So Professor Noboru Konno is here. Maybe you can come from that door to explain to us about Japan and innovation.
Okay, you are jumping to directly our difficult point, actually. Well, you're right that we are in a turmoil. We are struggling. As opposed to our growth in 1960s, 70s. Somebody says that the era of Asia has been created by Japan, but Japan would be the least the existence who would profit from the era of Asia. That might be true, but actually we don't really believe in it.
Okay.
Yeah. You just can't keep growing eternally. Sometimes you have to change. So if you look at the overtime, I mean history, growth is not the only thing you want. But what we are actually suffering and struggling is looking for the new way for prosperity, maybe prosperity without growth. And that's kind of global agenda.
Yep.
And actually, I mean, globally, maybe it's not the nice model anymore, just the growth with a compound growth of 5%, 3%. That's the limit, of course.
Yes.
Then we have to have a new business model, new combination or equation of economy. One key could be something like social innovation. Think about the people. And the 20th century economy is create products and sell it and grow. Yeah. But 21st century is different because we have to look at the problems we have created in the 20th century and solve it and create a new flow of economy and prosper, not by quantity, but quality.
Okay.
That's why we are interested in innovation. And innovation in that term is also different. Japan was notorious for our government-led innovation. 1970s.
Japan Inc.
Japan Inc., that's right, yeah. But now, these days, government is not so active. But government is also looking for a new role. It's not for, maybe not technological innovation from top down, but from bottom up, from social. We can frame that shift from supply side innovation to demand side innovation. So we are now struggling to find a new way for demand side innovation.
Why is that so, Professor? Because people seem to think that if you're ahead in grand innovation, like coming up with a new industrial technology in the 20th century, surely with all the information and knowledge amassed, and with all the wealth that has come with it, so you'll be in the prime position to move into the next leadership of the 21st century.
That's right. We kind of missed it. We have observing ourselves why we failed, in a sense. It's a kind of we believed too much in our past success. When you do it, it's very, very difficult to get out of it. Somebody said that they are the enemy of innovation is DNA, denial, nostalgia, and arrogance. If you make success, sometimes you trap into this DNA. Maybe we did so.
Yep.
So we are kind of first looking back and what we were and what we had again, then what we should have for the future. We are constantly struggling this way, but we trapped at the DNA.
I would like to go into the softer side of matters, especially when we talk about innovation. People always look at the next spaceship that will take man to Mars, the next chip that will be so small, it will be nano size, that our phone will just be in our ears. But the other side that people don't see is the intangible side, the cultural perspective.
Sure,
and
exactly.
We have always looked at Japan from this side. When the government of Malaysia were asking us to look east, the policy of looking east, is at more of the cultural side. The spirit of working hard, togetherness, achieving one mission.
That's right.
So I think that all those can still be there. But maybe with the success of the industrial, economic success of Japan, some things might have come from outside and disturb that equilibrium, steady cultural perspective. What do you think?
Well, before I answer your question, I'd like to talk about softer side of innovation then.
Sure.
If you take a look, think about some graph. Horizontal axis is social capital. We can measure such a thing called social capital. How your society is have trust each other, good relationship, etc. We call social capital. You can measure somehow. And you can measure level or degree of innovation somehow as well. And both axes interestingly have high correlation. They go hand in hand. Meaning, if you have good high trust society, you are better off doing innovation. Japan had that. Malaysia probably had it. High trust society. And so in Japan still, we have good social capital. The problem is our innovation side. So we have to maybe switch innovation model from technology, product-led, or supply side to demand side as well. So we are just
the balance of it.
Balancing it.
Professor, we have to go for the first commercial break, but once we are back, if that is the case, let's take one, because usually good innovation or great innovation comes when you have great problems.
That's
so
right.
In Japan, aging society is a big issue. But in the Asian society, even when I was small, it's always, to us, the only thing to do is to take care of your elders.
That's right.
Because they have done their part, and now you are more able, you must take care of them. But now we're hearing this debate in Japan that the young professionals of Japan, they don't want to pay for the cost of the looking care of the elder society, because they say the elders have reaped the reward of before. So now it's their time. They want to not be taxed too much to help the elderly, for example. And this is not only a problem in Japan.
No.
Europe is facing this too. And so happened, interestingly, that innovation in Europe also is coming into question. So that maybe we can discuss with one slide of hand after this short break. A very, very important forum on innovation, World Innovation Forum, is coming soon. And to take advantage, on Vantage Point, we have Professor Noboru Konno, who is a very important man as far as innovation is concerned in Japan and also globally. So if we can move on to, because the softer side of innovation, as we discussed before, it includes social cohesion, the feel-good factor in society, people not competing in a very partisan way, but in harmony, for example. However, if that gives correlation to high innovation in that society, for the Asian society, we've always talked that in the industrial age, we not only we didn't only take products and services from the West, but somehow we took also some lifestyle of the West, and that has created impact into the traditional family unit, which form the basis of society's cohesion for the Asian community. So now, for example, if I put it to a specific case like the aging society issue, so where do you see that?
Okay, obviously Japan is the most advanced age society, which is not so good actually, because if you look at the other side, we have least children. If you take a 0-14 population, it's a 12%. This is world 192nd rank. So these countries might not have a future. I mean, if you don't have a younger generation, no future. It's also generational. If you have, if your family has grandmother or father, and you're raised in the kind of situation, you don't care about this. It's generational.
Yes.
Now our average number of the household in Japan is below 2 or something, a single family. So it's generational. People are trained or educated or learn themselves to live by themselves alone. But still, we have asset of social capital traditionally. So therefore, we might find another way of community, different from traditional family, but different from just a family blood relationship, but more intellectual or cultural, etc. And based on that, we need a good community. So the community might be another infrastructure for that kind of social capital. That's what we're seeing. So government and the companies all should support that kind of model. And then for that, we need innovation for that purpose.
If that is the case, then society itself will have to come to equilibrium. Because in the 21st century, I really don't see any country where government still plays major role. More and more, people with social media innovation, for example, and information is right at your fingertips. Hence, mobile phone penetration is more than 100% in some countries. So they are becoming more independent in voicing their thoughts and what they want and what their needs are. They define themselves. So if that is the case, society would now have to think for themselves, in what new way would society be in the 21st century? Don't you think that's a bit more chaotic for the Asian side of the world rather than, maybe in the Western side that's a given. If you go and live in Manhattan, you're almost only independence is all you have from the family unit. But in the Asian side.
Well, in each country, if you take a snapshots of Asian countries and European or American countries, I mean, the weight or position of the nation or state is kind of shrinking. And they have different position. Now they have to negotiate with NGO, NPOs, unions, communities. It's more dynamic subsystem society rather than, government is here and communities here and so on. Japan used to be our society is such that the government and the community and enterprise hand in hand. But it's now kind of getting blurred. So now we have to find a new combination so that it's chaotic in a way. I think that our expectation of government, for instance, is to play a role of our producer or enabler of this kind of such a society. So it's still, there is a great important role for government, but it will be like an enabling kind of a role rather than controlling or top-down. And so it's a kind of change.
Do you think sometimes we're quite unfair, including me in the media, because if we look at innovation, for example, in the very simplistic term, maybe defined more by the industrial age, We look at Japan before, and then suddenly we see Korea up north.
Wow.
Why is Japan having problem when Korea is suddenly this resurgent, like
Yeah.
the new Japan? You look at the fight between Samsung and Apple.
Yeah, LG and...
Come on, this is Korea, South Korea, and they can take on Apple, which is one of the most innovative company of America. So, do you think it's a fair comparison? And why do you think suddenly Korea is emerging? Is it because they arrived later than Japan and would only later face the problem that Japan is facing now? Or how do you see it?
Well, yes, the competition, if I say competition with the Koreans, it's harsh, of course, but we don't see it so harsh, especially for myself, because Japan and Korea has been on the same business model of manufacturing and exporting, and they are more agile, smaller, and they could benchmark Japan, and they so are very good at, very efficient. In this world of manufacturing and mature industry, manufacturing, latecomers can learn quicker. And if you're really dedicated into it, you can win. So we admire Korean companies to be very agile, very controlled, like Samsung. But we don't want that, because companies and people are past that way. Looking for something else. Yes, we are losing in the terms of competition, but maybe competitive advantage and competition, etc., is kind of a past value in Japan because of the part of the age society. Then, do we look for Europe again? We're not sure. So there are various ways, alternatives.
We have to go for the second commercial break, but I want to tap into that secret. Where is Japan looking at? If you're not looking at Europe, America is said to be going to be overtaken by China in 2030. So after this short break, Professor, we look at that. Plus, maybe we take an innovation for dummies, kind of the yellow book, and ask Professor to link it back to where innovation is not just science; it's also an art, maybe, and link it back all the way to where Japan is looking at for the future. That after this short break. Thank you for still watching Vantage Point at a very special place called Yayasan Inovasi Malaysia, and we're talking about innovation. I have one of the most renowned expert in innovation from Japan, Professor Noboru Konno, with me. So where would Japan be looking at? Can't look at America, because people are saying that China is going to overtake America earliest, maybe 2025 even. Can't look at Europe, because Europe is also grappling with a lot of problems also, and their growth rate is very, very low as compared to before. So where do you look at? Because around you will be the countries that before are so far behind compared to you. So that, plus maybe you can link that back to why, especially a lot of people still look at innovation as grand innovation. But actually, you can't separate individual, family, society from innovation. Please, Professor.
In these 2-3 decades, we've seen that they are the victory of capitalism. But what we are facing now is the loss, failure of capitalism. Suppose there are a couple of capitalisms.
A few versions.
American capitalism, European, rather conservative capitalism, and a Chinese capitalism. We're looking for something different, which we call, I call virtuous capitalism, or capitalism based on virtue. Actually, traditionally, capitalism has been seen as just for money, just for profit. But if you look at the history of capitalism, like 16th, 17th Netherlands, for instance, capitalism has been created with a very much irrational factor, like they want to create a country, people, victory, many virtuous factors. These irrational factors can be very rational to capitalism in the future. If we look at Japan and Asia in a historical perspective, What we can offer, we believe, is high trust society, etc.
Okay.
Virtues. Maybe we can share the concept of virtual capitalism. Then we can relate to the people, person, in the community. They create innovation, do innovation for the people, for the community, and create a new flow or business model based on virtues. That builds on to virtuous capitalism.
Okay.
That's a, well, it's a tacit kind of feeling shared among Japanese, but that's what we want to do, in essence.
If Japan is still grappling with that, not really hitting a green patch or moving ahead with that, what hope would countries like Malaysia have? We're not even as developed as Japan. We're still grappling with the old definition of innovation as we know it. So I would like to tap into your expertise to assess us briefly on where Malaysia stands on innovation. What's the hope for the future?
Okay. I'm here because I'm interested in this, your grassroots innovation.
Yes. Okay.
Grassroots innovation is very virtuous in a way. Okay. If you look at the change of innovation, as I said, it's from supply side to demand side. Okay. So demand side innovation is necessary. I think what Malaysia is aiming for is not just high-tech, top-down, government control only innovation, but bottom-up. And I think that the MOSI is supporting this kind of activities. That means they're good balance. Okay. For good balance, we need a good judgment, good knowledge. So I think that the Malaysians can share that kind of judgment for the future in terms of innovation with us. That's my point.
Where do you see Malaysians and Japanese collaborating on this? Because we tried to do that in the industrial age. We tried to kick off our national car industry with maybe Mitsubishi technology. But now maybe we have to do it in a very different way.
That's
for
right.
this new one that you're saying.
Yeah. These days or near future, we don't divide just the developed countries and advanced countries anymore. Because of the internet and outsourcing, offshoring, we all share the same culture of innovation. Okay. So it's a people by people. So if we can create a network or communities of companies or businesses, whatever, we can collaborate. But the basic the essence is ethics or virtue, trust. If we can trust by some factors, fundamental factors, we can collaborate.
Okay. So if that is the case, so you really subscribe that the 21st century will really see the emergence or re-emergence of Asia as the better half of the world in terms of advancing civilization ahead, because if innovation is to be the pinnacle of this knowledge-based economy era, then virtues that we have in our society right now is actually the key driver.
Yeah, I think so. 21st century will be very chaotic, I have to say, although. But we have to have the kind of virtual capitalism to solve the problems and to become new. So I think that in that sense, virtuous capitalism is the key.
Is the biggest threat the refusal, that DNA we're talking about, the refusal to change? For example, your country and my country, we both have 5-year cycle of political leadership. Would politics and politicians in politics, the way they have done it for decades, be able to absorb this new way? Because you can't just plan for 5 years anymore, for example.
No, that's right. So personally, I think that the track 2, or multi-track diplomacy, for instance, will be very important. So this level, like this innovation, the foundation, this level of multi-track communication or interaction will be the key, rather than only government diplomacy.
So that's why you say it's going to be chaotic. Thank you so much, Professor.
Thank you very much.
We read between the lines of what you're trying to say also.
Thank you very
so
much.
much for making time.
Thank you.
All the best to Japan, and hopefully we can collaborate more.
Success to you too.
Thank you so much to Yayasan Inovasi Malaysia for giving Professor to us, and also this place for us to record. And don't forget, World Innovation Forum Kuala Lumpur. Professor will also be there, so hang on to it. Log on to Google and search where, when, and how you can participate. Goodbye. See you in another episode of Vantage Point soon.